Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at the new Dunkirk mission scenario. It is now the mission of the week here in World of Warships. I'm divisioned up with my friend from APOC, Harley Quinn. She's playing in the Tier 5 British destroyer HMS Anthony, and I'm playing in the Tier 5 French destroyer Cyclone, and we're here to try and evacuate the Allied personnel from the beaches of Dunkirk. So, this mission, based off of the real-life thing, Operation Dynamo, I'm going to show you how to take care of this mission, and I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about the historical significance of the battle that took place, otherwise known as the Miracle at Dunkirk. So this is going to be a bit of a history lesson as well as gameplay footage. So for the gameplay aspect, you can see all of these transport vessels that you have to escort over to just off the beaches of Dunkirk. And once you get there, you have to pick up the Allied troops and then take them back to England, all the more while trying to keep yourself safe from German naval, land, and air force attack. You can see that there's parts of the minimap that are siphoned off with red. Those are minefields that, of course, if you go into them, you are going to die. And you can now see as I'm panning the camera around, this is the port of Dunkirk and the French beaches. Again, you have to get inside this massive circle that is right off the beach. You got to slow down, pick up the Allied troops, as many as you possibly can. And then once you do so, then you got to, again, make your way back to England. So this mission is actually really, really cool. And of course, me being a history major and somebody that wants to teach one day, this is actually, in my opinion, one of the coolest things that World of Warships has done in quite some time. Again, I'm getting close here to you can see that white circle. That's where you need to get in. You can also see that there are German fighters that are overhead. They look like BF-110s, two-engined. I believe 2 or 3 men were inside of those things, and they were used as a heavy fighter / bomber destroyer during the battle. So, speaking of the battle anyway, I'm just going to give you a short history class on it and just talk you guys through the forces that are involved and just the general outcourse of events that happened during that trying time for the Allies. So, Operation Dynamo, again known as the Miracle of Dunkirk, was the evacuation of Allied soldiers from the beaches of Dunkirk from the 26th of May through the 4th of June during the Second World War. Basically, to put it into perspective, after the Germans invaded Poland in September of 1939 and their capitulation of the Polish state in October of that year, there was a period of time known as the Phoney War. Basically, short of isolated skirmishes between the air forces and the naval forces of the Axis and the Allies, there was really nothing that was going on. And it kind of lulled the Allies into this false sense of security where they were wondering when the Germans were going to invade France. Now, of course, France took a lot of casualties during the First World War, and they certainly would not be able to hold off a German attack without the help of their friends. So during 1940, the Allies continued to bolster their defenses along the border of France and Germany and the border of France and Belgium. Obviously, Belgium was also part of the Allies at the time. And basically, they were awaiting the impending German invasion, which is something that they obviously knew was going to happen, they just didn't know when. It occurred on the 10th of May, 1940, when the German forces, supported by 3 Panzer Corps, or basically the collection of panzer divisions under the generalship of men like Erwin Rommel, Heinz Guderian, and, of course, Erich von Manstein, they went through the Ardennes forest, and they were able to break their way through the French lines, and they were able to cause much havoc in the rear of the Allied formations. And basically, the entire Allied line broke in the matter of a couple of weeks, and they were forced to very fast retreat along the shoreline along the coast of Belgium and France. And basically, the Allies were herded into the corner at Dunkirk. Now, to put it also into perspective, over 50 Allied divisions. In World War II, a division was anywhere from 10 to 20,000 men were stuck over along the coastline. And it's absolutely amazing if you read about the German invasion of France and the Battle of France. It's amazing from a military perspective what they were able to do, and that they were able to surround all those Allied troops over there. And from a military perspective, it was an absolute blitzkrieg of a battle, which was, of course, the term used for the German advance with their panzer forces and their Stukas and all of the aircraft and tanks that broke through the enemy's lines. So, by the 21st of May, all of those Allied troops were surrounded at Dunkirk. 3 French armies, the entire British Expeditionary Force, and then smaller contingents of troops from the Netherlands, Belgium, Canada, and Poland. So the Allies were in a very sticky situation, And all the Germans really had to do was put pressure on Dunkirk and continue their assault. But in one of the random twists of fate that happens during any war, Hitler personally ordered on the 22nd of May for the German land forces, the Heer, or army, to stop their attacks on the pocket created at Dunkirk, and he assigned the destruction of that force chiefly to Reichsmarschall Hermann Goering, the commanding officer of the entire Luftwaffe, or the Air Force. And it was one of the biggest blunders of the entire war, probably even more so than the Operation Barbarossa adventure into the Soviet Union and the Battle of Stalingrad, two very decisive turning points during the Second World War. And it's amazing to me that they stopped their advance trying to kill or capture all of the Allied troops that were stuck there. And again, something that just absolutely amazing to me. So basically, from the 26th of May through the 4th of June, British destroyers, Royal Navy vessels, and personal and civilian craft were tasked with going across the English Channel to save their men and whatever material that they could get. And it's amazing to me the amount of ships that were sent across the channel to do so. So basically, you had a cruiser, HMS Calcutta, and you had a total of 39 destroyers that went across the channel. And not just those, you had sloops, corvettes, gunboats, minesweepers. But then you also had this amazing contribution, and these ships were known as the little ships of Dunkirk. And you had personal yachts, you had personal boats, crewed by civilians. These were, harbor vessels that went across the channel very bravely to bring back all of the Allied troops that they possibly could. And they lost a lot of ships, 170 of them, that made their way across the channel, of course, amongst plenty of other ships that did as well. And like I said, the Germans mined the channel. They had daily airstrikes. They had Ju-88 and Heinkel HE-111 bombers, Ju-87 Stukas, of course the Messerschmitt fighters, the 109s and the 110s that were there to try and stop it. And the Allies suffered on a daily basis, and it was absolutely amazing the amount of effort that was put in. So two of those vessels are here in the battle, in the mission. You have the French destroyer Cyclone and HMS Anthony. So a little bit of history on them. The French destroyer Cyclone was a Borasque-class destroyer built for the French Navy during the 1920s. She was one of the first classes of destroyers built for the French Navy after the end of the First World War. Commissioned in March of 1927, she participated in the early battles of the First World War, including escorting Allied convoys and dropping depth charges on enemy submarines, the U-boats. Unfortunately for her, she did suffer during the Dunkirk evacuation. She was hit on the bow by a torpedo from the E-boat S-24, which completely blew it off and killed two crew members. She was escorted out of the area, however, by another destroyer that's present in World of Warships, the ORP Błyskawica, which is the Tier 7 Polish destroyer. She was able to limp back to Dover as she transported the men that she had picked up. And then after that, she proceeded to Cherbourg, France, one of the French naval bases, and then on to Brest, France, which is at the western end in the area of Brittany, where she arrived on the 3rd of June to go get repairs for the bow that was blown off. But of course, in 15 days worth of time, she was not repaired, and the Germans, continuing their advance across France in early June 1940, were able to get to the port. So she was scuttled in the harbor, and her wreck was actually recovered in 1944 by the French Navy. But yeah, she participated in the dynamo, was able to escort men out, and took some damage from it, which is something that can be said for a lot of the vessels that took part. As for HMS Anthony, she was an A-class destroyer, also one of the first classes of destroyers built for the Royal Navy at the end of the First World War in the interwar period. She was commissioned on the 14th of February 1930, and during the Second World War, she also escorted convoys to and from the United Kingdom and Russia. And unfortunately for her, she also took some damage during the operation at Dunkirk. She was able to rescue 3,000 personnel from the beaches, which is a very large amount when you consider that the average destroyer during that time, only had a complement of anywhere from 100 to 500 men. So she was heavily overcrowded with men. And also on the 30th of May, she did sustain some damage from an air attack, but she was able to get the heck out of Dodge and return back to her base in Harwich. And then again, for the remainder of the war, she provided convoy escort duties, anti-submarine duties for convoys going to the United Kingdom and the Soviet Union. And at the end of the war, she was able to make her way through it. And she was disposed of in 1946. So those two ships, again, present here in the mission that you can do. You can also play as HMS Gallant. You can see as my friend in the Gallant just takes a massive bomb hit from the Stukas, losing a whole heck of a lot of hit points. But yeah, you can play as HMS Gallant if you have purchased the premium vessel. She also took part in the evacuation at Dynamo. I do not recall if she took any battle damage, but she definitely escorted and was able to help out a lot of the Allied troops that were there at the time as well. So basically, by the 4th of June, all of the evacuation had took place that they were able to do. 338,000 men were saved. At the expense, however, of 226 ships of all types sunk, which included 6 destroyers for the Royal Navy and 3 destroyers for the French. The destroyers of the Royal Navy, the Grafton, the Grenade, the Wakeful, the Silix, the Havant, and the Keith were sunk, all by torpedo boat and air attack. And the French destroyers Barras, Serpent, and Le Flamboyant were sunk also by mines, torpedo attack from E-boats, and attack from the air. The Royal Air Force also lost 145 aircraft during the operation. 42 of them were Spitfires, and the Luftwaffe lost 156 aircraft during the 9 days of the battle. An interesting note, for every 7 soldiers who escaped Dunkirk, 1 man was left behind as a prisoner of war. And the majority of the prisoners, again 68,000 men, were taken prisoner. About 7 divisions worth of men were a full field army. They were sent on forced marches back to Germany, where they were used, at least the lower ranks, to work in the industry and agriculture for the remaining of the war. And another cool little thing, the Dunkirk Jack, which is the St. George's Cross defaced with the arms of Dunkirk flown, is warranted by the Association of the Dunkirk Little Ships to be flown on any vessel that took part in the Dunkirk rescue. There's, I think, like a dozen or so, or maybe even more of them, which are allowed to fly it because those vessels have since survived the test of time. And also, this mission is really cool and historically significant because there is also a movie which is coming out as well, aptly titled Dunkirk, about the evacuation, and you see it through the eyes of an airman, a naval officer, and I believe a civilian and a soldier as well that took part during Operation Dynamo. So the battle was very significant. The film looks really good. Christopher Nolan is the director. For those of you that don't know, he directed movies such as Interstellar and The Dark Knight Rises, as well as Inception, all wonderful movies. And Hans Zimmer does the score for the music. One of the best, honestly, one of the best instrumental musicians there is out there. And he makes some very good stuff. So, for the rest of this video, I'm just going to look at the gameplay here. I know I've been rambling on quite a bit, but I really do think that you guys might have enjoyed the history lesson. And of course, for me, certainly much so on that, because it's important to know what happened during the war, and it's important to know, at least me being American, that you can't just, only focus on Pearl Harbor and what the Americans were able to do. You have to understand the sacrifices and the battles that took place with the other nations and allies. So you can see here I have detached the camera, and there is a whole crap load of planes up in the air. You've got Spitfires, you've got BF-110s, Hurricanes, ME-109s, all going for air superiority and supremacy here. And look at all the planes that are getting shot down. The fighters, again, they're there just to spot you. Obviously, at this point, we are well out of the range of the coastal batteries along the beaches from the Germans. But we have to provide air support for these guys, because all of the fighters that get that are left over, the Allies, we'll be able to use them for more of the torpedo and bomber planes, which you can see are continuing to come in. Those damn Stukas, Heinkels, and Junkers medium bombers have been just causing quite a bit of problems. You can see back there is a green circle that is on. You can see one of our friends, Hms Anthony, is picking up more survivors. If you do have ships that do sink, you can go inside the circle and pick up the troops that they were evacuating. And you can also see at the top left the tasks. Not only do you have to shoot down torpedo planes and dive bombers, you have to save 7,000 soldiers. You got to save at least 7 of the civil ships. We have 9 of them currently. And you also have to sink those dastardly little torpedo boats. So it's a very, very intense mission, and I'm up to 45 planes shot down. The Cyclone actually has better AA than the Anthony, but what the Anthony gets is access to a smoke screen, which is able to hide your friends, and of course also the transport vessels, while the Cyclone, the Anthony has the defensive fire. The Cyclone has access to the smoke screen. So the Anthony's AA is worse, but it is able to make the torpedo attacks a lot less accurate, and the bomb attacks, of course, as well. And you can see that we're almost across the English Channel here. We only have a little bit more to go, and we do have to worry about those shell boots. It only takes 1 or 2 shells to be able to take those things out, but again, they are so damn hard to hit. You can see throughout the replay, this is only the 3rd kill that I've had, but then again, the Cyclone does have a 9-second reload on its main battery because it is a heavier caliber of weapon than the Galant and the Anthony, which have a 4.5-second reload. You can see there the torpedo boats are trying to get into the convoy of our ships. Going to definitely continue to shoot at them. You can see that I didn't even lead enough, and you can't tell it on screen, but I was aiming well past the 20, and I was still way behind on that salvo right there. I'm going to get another one. You can see just trying to kill those things is very difficult. There we go. Managed 2 hits right there on that enemy E-boat. Now I'm switching my attention here to this other guy that's only 3 kilometers away. They, like I said, launch 2 torpedoes. They have 1 on each side, and they are very fast torpedoes, so you have to be very careful. And that's something that I haven't noticed yet. There's Chanel boots that are only about 3 kilometers off my port aft end of the ship as I land a hit right there on Wolfgang. All of a sudden, as I noticed, 2.5 kilometers away now, there's more Chanel boots that are trying to make their way up here. So I'm going to launch my salvo of torpedoes. The Cyclone has 2 triple launchers of torpedoes, and I'm turning my guns into play to try and take out August over here. Additional boot. You can see that even at these ranges, it's still very difficult to hit. My torpedo actually manages to kill one of them, which is something that I have yet to replicate or duplicate. It's a very difficult thing to do. And with the rear turrets, I'm able to take out the other Chanel boot as well. So now I've upped my kill count to 7 and my plane count to 47 at this point. An absolutely ridiculous game that I've been having. Usually I get about 10 to 20 kills and anywhere from 20 to 30 aircraft. So this one right here with 48 aircraft shot down at this point is absolutely incredible, at least for me. Unfortunately, the Luftwaffe, a bomber of Kampfgeschwader 27 Volker, which is one of the many tactical bomber formations that the Germans had at the time, was able to sink one of our allied ships. So at this point, we still have 9 civil ships left as I sink my 8th Chanel boot of the battle. You can see our friend in the Cyclone has been caught way back to the southeast by the torpedo and dive bombers, and it doesn't appear that he has very many hit points left over. And he's only at 881 back there, trying to take care of this final Chanel boot that is over here, get the rear turrets out, and I am able to take kill number 9 for myself. 16,000 points of damage done, and 48 planes shot down. You can see here checking the scoreboard. Harley is the only one. That was, she got taken care of by one of the dive bombers, but managed to get 11 kills. And then the rest of my team coming in a little bit behind me as well. You can see here the Luftwaffe is attacking Gamer, and unfortunately a bomber of 2nd Squadron, KG-27 Boca, manages to take care of that French Cyclone. But now that I'm finally back to England, I now need to slow down inside the circle and disembark my troops on the beaches. And we are going to be able to save 7,000 soldiers and also save at least 7 civil ships as well. You can see the counter up at the top of the screen. We have 8,316 men. That is going down. You can see in Sector C5, there are some men back there, but we are not going to be able to do anything about them, but we will be able to save that 7,000 men limit. So, that is the Dunkirk scenario here in World of Warships. It's actually, again, really, really fun. I've really enjoyed it. And right here at the end, as those Heinkel and Junkers bombers are flying away, I'm going to be able to secure 2 more airplanes and up my total to an incredible 51 shot down. So with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed the history lesson and the gameplay here of Dunkirk. And also with that being said, Sneaky Snake signing off. Have a fantastic day.